Welcome to our annual meeting. This is a recording. We are not broadcasting it live, but you're seeing this afterwards, so you can scroll to where you would like to. Thank you for being a part of our parish and watching it today. Thanks. Early on, we're in the refrigerator right now. And on the left-hand side, so you can watch this. It's part of the weapons, commands, so you can see there. Towards the feet. All right. I'd like to invite the congregation forward. You can bring your coffee with you, etc. Treasurer here. Share the table. I'm taking the end seat so I can make a quick get of them if necessary. If I yell to Marie, start the car, you know. Oh, you can take any seat you want. Whatever's best for you and easy for you. Again, I invite you forward. I see some people finishing up in the kitchen. We just want to be able to stick a little more socially distanced. That includes people who want to sit at a round table in the back. I will do my best to project. And I will also ask perhaps Holly, where's Holly, who is going to be earshot for me. All right. If you didn't, we have two collections of paperwork here. One is got the color graphic on it. That contains the agenda. And the other contains the ministry reports, that's black and white. Those are near the door. We need one each of those. All right. Friends, with the response being, and also with you, I say, the Lord be with you. And also with you. Gracious God, we thank you for this opportunity to gather as your community, known as the body of Christ, known as the Church of St. John the Baptist in Lodi, California. Thank you for these previous years, Lord, and thank you for today, because today is what we have to walk together, to understand where we've been, and to discern where we are going. Help us to follow you and continue through this year to give grace and gratitude and praise for all the goodness that is bestowed upon us by our Lord. This I pray for in Jesus' name. Amen. And that was also my call to order. I see a quorum here between the people, so we will call that to order. First on our list is elections for vestry, and those people who have been nominated are, let me go to my correct page, correct program here. Karen, where is the vestry list? I know there's a page that people are running. I'll find it. Thank you. May 7th. Did I skip minutes already? I already skipped something. Thank you. Oh, this is a great annual meeting so far. Thank you. I would like to ask for a motion to approve the minutes from our 2021 annual meeting, which are on page 3 of this booklet. Do I have a motion to accept those minutes? Okay, I'm going to have Karen make a motion, Karen Holtz, and Richard Kress seconded it. Was there any discussion of those minutes? Hearing none. All in favor of accepting them, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? You weren't here. Fair enough. All right. Now, I am going to go to our vestry election. The proposed class of 2025, we have 4 persons willing to fulfill roles on our vestry. They include Beth Elwood, Courtney Kuykendall, Kelly Bowles, and Debbie Waberski. And first, I will ask if there are any nominations from the floor. Hearing, seeing none. Do we want to, we have a slate here. Does somebody want to make a proposal that we accept the slate? Make a motion to the slate. Thank you. Is that seconded? Thank you, Richard Kress. All in favor of accepting those members just read as our vestry class of 2025, please say aye. Aye. All right, I'm hearing that as unanimous. Thank you. And now we also do our delegates and alternates. There's a note on some page, on page 7, we have our delegates and alternates listed. And I think from a previous year, we needed people from the floor. I don't know that we need to get any other delegates or alternates. We get 2, correct? 2 delegates? 3 delegates, all right. All right, we'll go with that. And if we have another delegate, I'll mark the alternates we will send. All righty, so people who are going to be our delegates are Rosemary Kress and Alethea Legone. And our alternate delegates are Richard Kress, Margaret Meyer, and Margaret Pringle. Were there any other nominations from the floor for delegates for our diocesan responsibilities? All in favor of accepting these persons as our delegates? Well, I need to make a motion to accept the list. Sorry. You so move and second. Okay. You're all going too fast. She's got it. Karen. All right. And second. Was there any discussion? All in favor of accepting that slate, please say aye. Aye. All right. Seems unanimous. We've gotten that out of the way. So for special acknowledgements, I always like to first acknowledge those who are rolling off of our vestry. That includes people who have served well and diligently since I started 2 years ago. And so I have from them, Holly can help me out. Please. I'll keep reminding you of their names. We can run these over, but I'll show the gathered. Vestry people give of their time to serve the parish, and they meet once a month. And we have a retreat in January, and they put a lot of hours into being a vestry person. With that sometimes comes a draw away from the spiritual nature of the church, I find at times. And so I like to give outgoing vestry members a little book called Hour by Hour. And this is a book that has a morning devotion, a noon devotion, an evening devotion, and a right before bed devotion, written in here for each day of the week. So if you want to practice all or some of those, so as Holly and I pass these out, I would like to ask you to give a round of applause for those who are rolling off our vestry. Richard Kress, Barbara Pringle, Margaret Myers, Karen Olds, and Ken Warburton. And he'll take part. All right, thank you for that. And for our vestry this year, our board who we elected plus Alethea, Jamie Williams, and Paula James. If you can give them a round of applause for being our friends. So many notes here, so many notes. Occasionally people ask me to provide a little something for a couple of people for a special acknowledgement. This one is an easy one, and as you'll hear when my annual meeting remarks commence in a few minutes, is I would like to change and the Vestry and I will work on, how we utilize our junior warden. As you'll hear me talk about, a junior warden is supposed to be the people's warden, not buildings and grounds. But having said that, for the last 2 years, Ken Warburton has been buildings and grounds, and Ken comes in here dutifully, listens to my terse texts, sometimes when the alarms go off in the early morning hours, and he always has a smile on his face and a joke on his lips. So, Ken, Barbara's probably tired of the jokes, so I got you a book of new ones for you. Let's see here. Dee Mayfield, you're here somewhere, or we're here. Hello, Dee. You served as our treasurer for many years, I'm told, and you stepped up when I came and really supported me in coming as treasurer, and you were our vestry secretary for a while because we needed one. And so I was asked, and I certainly agreed, just to give you this flag for appreciation, which just says thank you, presented to Dee Mayfield, in appreciation for your many years of service as church treasurer for the congregation of St. John's Lodi 2022. I'll make you halfway. I don't know if Deacon Tom's taking. Yes, he is. So let's do that posing picture. All right. Good. Thank you, Dean. Thank you. All right, I started a little over 2 years ago, and although we had at least one plan, I never did get a chance to see one of our arts at St. John's as we have done them in the past. And Pete Pringle gave me a call not too long ago saying he was ready to roll off of his leadership role in Arts at St. John's. And I asked him what we might do for him to thank him, and he said that he has a wonderful collection, I think, of posters of all of the arts that have been done here. So I can't top that. Well, I'll give you a plaque. So, this thank you is presented to Pete Pringle in appreciation for your ministry over Arts at St. John's throughout the years from the congregation of St. John's Lodi 2022. And as traditional, we have some flowers. Holly's going to run and get flowers for Karen Knowles, who is going off as our senior warden for all of her work. And let's see, one is for Lynn, who's not here, our co-treasurer. And I think the other is for Barbara Warbert, who served dutifully as our secretary on the vestry for this year. So to them, for their special services, Karen, thank you so much. Barbara, thank you so much. Never least, as you will hear me talk about her in a couple of minutes, minutes. Penny Wilson, come on down. We'll hear about Penny in a minute. She does a lot here, as we all know in Acknowledge. So I just got you a little gift certificate to a place that Hannah told me you like. And if Hannah likes it, that's why I got it. Thank you for it. Rector comments. Jumble paper. The last 2 years, as I pointed out before, it might even be in my writing in the annual meeting booklet, feels to me like one. And so, unlike a usual annual meeting that looks back at the recent year past, I'm going to combine the two as I move forward here and talk. I believe my experience during that time with you, though minus the traditional entry for a priest, have offered us all a firm footing on which we stand today. And on that same firm footing, we are going to be a stronger community able to lean into this year ahead of us. So I want to begin by looking positively at where we are today. And this was part of the reason for naming the blessings that came to us over this last year. I was delighted to see many sharings on the wall there. People put their post-its for those who had good health and those who had friends and who have done good things. And just as many, all kinds of blessings, but there are many for St. John's. And the word used frequently was and is community. And that's what I want us to remember, that despite the last 2 years that we've had, extreme hardships, deaths, challenges, the years as a whole are not all murky or unpleasant. Despite our uphill learnings and our challenges, where we got it right, where we got it wrong, God is still good. God bestowed grace, love, and light amidst our lives. And it is with gratitude for our connection to God that I want to look ahead under God to 2022 with 2020 vision. What I've learned in the past couple of years is that it seems to me that St. John's has lived in recent memory, and maybe it just seems that way, I'm not saying this is the way, with a certain future narrative in mind. More people were going to come, and more support would come, and more funds would come, and more buildings would be erected, and magnificent ministries would be bestowed upon the greater community of Lodi. All of this, if we continue to do it now, continue to push, is called future thinking. We future think, we live into. As I mentioned in my sermon, we fall into the danger of pretending that we are a megachurch. Living into God's truth of who we are today, with what abilities we have, with a narrow frame of focus for what we will do to bring that out, is where I want us to look this year. I have a guess, and I don't know, especially if you've read my report. If I ask the congregation to raise fingers, and I'm not asking you to save time, on how many full-time staff we have, I'm going to guess that some, if not many of you, would lift up 2 fingers. We only have 1 full-time staff member, and that person is me. And then the question says, what about Penny? She's always there when I call, she's always doing this, she's always doing that, she's bugging me for reports, whatever. You know, Penny is not even a traditional part-time staff. Penny works 16 hours a week. 4 days a week, she comes in for 5 hours a day. She takes a 1 hour lunch, sort of. Less than is what she takes. We don't have her in for longer hours because, as I was told when I started, going over that amount of hours that she has means, because there are rules in the Episcopal Church, we are an Episcopal Church, means that we would have to then provide benefits and health insurance, even for part-time. I know we don't love to do that, but we can't do that. And that is one of the truths I want to name. Pretending that we have more people in the office than we do is not helpful. To know that we have somebody as dedicated as you, Penny, who takes, just like Jesus does with the fishes and the loaves, takes 16 hours and does magnificent things with those every week. I want to say again to you, thank you. So when people talk about having an electric sign out front, or we should have a fabulous, beyond belief website with all the frills, and our newsletter should come out looking like a magazine because we saw these at other churches. I don't want to say, how would you do that? How would we support that? Let Penny do it is often the common phrase I hear. But if you look at those churches that produce those or have those signs, there's usually at least 3 administrative staff full-time, 2 communications people, at least one of them full-time, in addition to multiple clergy. Here we have Penny. So that's not something I'm asking us to fix right away. Although I know Penny would probably like to get benefits and health insurance and the whole bit. But let's live as who we are. Let's not assume that we are anything more than who we are as a parish. Because parish size is not about the property size. It is measured by the people. At St. John's Lodi, we are just above what's called a family church, and we still retain some of those family elements, which is not a bad thing. But we are definitely into the next size up, which is called the pastoral size. But those 2 sizes are 2 or 3 removed from whatever the Episcopal Church word for megachurch is. So we thank Penny, but I also want us to not sink into despair. I want us to begin to see that there's grace and gratitude from God as we live as who we are, not who we pretend to be. And this moves through the rest of our staff. We don't have a sexton in the traditional sense. I get people during the year saying, why don't we open our doors and invite this community group in? That's a good question. Other churches do it around here. You know why? It's because we don't have a sexton. A sexton, a proper sexton, is a 40-hour-a-week employee, which means, of course, benefits and health insurance, whose schedule changes every week depending on the needs of the parish. The sexton works not only for janitorial purposes and fix it around the place, the dripping faucet over here, the toilet doesn't stop flushing over there. They say that for the record now. But the sexton also is that person who is then scheduled on Thursday at 5 o'clock because that community group is coming in. The sexton can open the door for them, turn off the alarm, of course, and then when they're done, they can straighten up, close, lock the door, turn the alarm back on. We can't do that. We don't have a sexton. We have Camarina, a wonderful janitorial employee who does excellent work, and I wish she was here for us to give our thanks. But she's not. We also have Mandy, our nursery caregiver, Steve, our soloist. Steve, you've done magnificent work. I'm used to seeing you over here. Yet for Steve, all you've done is here. And sitting in the back, as she can come forward, Christy Wells. We enjoy her music. It's great. Senior warden, we also have our volunteer treasurers, Karen Olds and Lynn Moreland. Thank you. And I can look around the room and I can't name all the names and give awards for all the people who I feel deserve them. But thank you to all the laity of this parish. I came by the other day to drop something off, and there was a whole passel of folks trimming back the rose bushes. That is what makes us a church living within our means. It's wonderful to see. There's people, I'm going to name two names just because I wrote them down. One is Jack Christie, who rarely worships here. I'm not telling on him, he would say the same thing, but he does magnificent work on our grounds. And then people like Tom Romano, you're here today. I think you were with Rose people the other day. You're one of our sound people. Thank you to all who serve here. We celebrate as many parishioners and staff because they are part of the grace and gratitude that arose out of the last 2 years and help us to live into our purpose under God as a people under God, not a physical plant under God. I spoke this morning about looking at who we are honestly. Well over 20 years ago, the National Episcopal Church began revealing to its churches that Episcopal numbers would begin to decline. They said, get ready. A decade ago, following what the National Church did first, the National Church used to own a building in New York City. They sold their building, and now they rent space within that building. The Diocese of Chicago just sold their diocesan office space, and they now rent. The church is getting smaller, and the top knows it, and the top has been communicating it to parishes for the last 20+ years. They've been asking Episcopal parishes to start thinking about doing the same thing. Start living within our means. Stop taking on too much debt, and do what you can to get your church in the middle of the community so you can minister to the people of a community. That is how we envision being church today. Now there's grace in this. Knowledge is power, I believe, and that knowledge is playing out. And what we could not have foreseen is COVID did a huge, time machine fast forward to what was happening in the life of the church, in addition to others of you in other vocations and such. How it's affected the church. It fast forwarded for clergy and for lay people 5 to 10 years. Clergy that were thinking, I'm going to retire in a few years, have retired. Clergy for whom retirement was not even on the radar are looking at their retirement date. Parishioners who were kind of just going to church because it was the rhythm, it was the thing to do, who might have just decided eventually stop going to church on Sundays. They've stopped. And it's affected every single parish here in Lodi. It is not an Episcopal thing. The priest in charge, the pastor in charge of Bear Creek Church was telling me the other day that before COVID, on a weekend, Bear Creek Church was seeing and serving 780 people. After COVID, it's 250 people. That's a bigger hit than we've taken. We're 100 in the service, now we're down to about 70 in the service, roughly speaking. So I want us to take this knowledge and know who we are and who we are in our community, with church, with our numbers. We are a little bit cut off on this property. We're not in the middle anymore of a group of people we can serve. And that's okay. That just tells us that we need to figure out ways of how to go out into the world. And I believe that as long as we remain together, faithful under God, and serve as who we are in number and ability, not pretend to be something bigger than that, God's will be accomplished. And we accomplished a lot in these last 2 years. That is where I'm able to make these comments today, because we've already done what I'm asking us to continue doing, living within our means. None of us wishes for the pandemic for many reasons. And yet, you can call it silver lining, God's grace. We were forced to be a church who had lived within our means for the last 2 years. We were forced because we couldn't meet together and we couldn't do every single thing we're used to doing. We were forced to only carry on a couple of focuses each year, and we did. The first year of COVID ended up being about figuring out how to worship together when we're sitting apart. That was successful. And the other I'm forgetting. What am I forgetting here? I left my notes. I'm going to talk communities. Community is the next one. I'll skip that one. What were we doing? We were oh, I know. Communication. You please. Year one was communication. We felt, the vestry, the rector, our deacon, we felt that if we were cut off, because we couldn't meet together on Sundays, we couldn't chat over coffee hour like we were doing today, there would be a sense of community lost or a lack of communication. So we had to bump up our communication. So we started what was called a Monday message, a little reminder of what was happening in the upcoming week. And then our newsletters have remained as a weekly publication. The second year was figuring out how to get us back in person, worshiping somewhat in a normal way, which we've done. And the other was to find us how to be who we are as a parish and serve the wider community. And thanks to some foresight, even though our bishop could never have known what was coming down the pipe, his assignment of Deacon Tom to us, and are lucky to be re-ups twice now, has Deacon Tom, without you, we would not have been able to do, I don't think, any of the outreach that we're doing. And including under you began the creation care, which Henny Van Kneidenberg, your wife, now is the head of. And so to both of you, we say thank you. I talked about vestries. Karen and Ken were our wardens this last year, and Karen is a magnificent representative of God's parish here, and was a wise and wonderful counselor to me. And I was, especially as I was still trying to find my way here. I wasn't here 4 months, and I was already tripping up. People trip up when they're new, but then COVID happened, and I really needed help navigating, and you helped. Thank you again to you, and Ken, thank you again to you. I've already talked about your jokes, which I appreciate, and I hope to hear some of those. I purposely didn't read the book, so but that brings me to that junior warden, which I've already alluded to a bit. The junior warden in the Episcopal Church, and we are an Episcopal Church, is supposed to be the people's warden. The rector has a senior warden, and I should say, I forgot to do this when we elected them. My senior warden for this year, I've asked, and she has said yes, is going to be Beth Elwood. Beth, you are sweet. Yes. I think by naming it now, you can't run out. So, a senior warden is called the rector's warden. I, as the rector, get to appoint who that senior warden is for the 1-year term. And that person becomes a counselor to me, helps me to see through their lens of experience in the parish of what's going on, what's working, what's not. That is mine. The congregation has their warden, the junior warden, to do the same thing. What's going on with this? How can we do that? I want to get involved. Whatever it is, you can really go to any vestry person. You can come to me about that too. But the junior warden is the people's warden. You have one. But the junior warden was never supposed to be, and it's not in any other Episcopal church in my life that I've been a part of, also the buildings and grounds person. And look at our buildings and grounds. They're huge. Friends, we cannot put that on the backs of any one person. This is something that I'm going to ask the vestry to start working upon, or maybe even solve at our vestry retreat, is how we go about this. Part of what I hope is that we will understand that maybe in this parish we have gardeners. Maybe we have people that have worked with electronics before and like to do that. Maybe we've got people who like to fix plumbing. They're really good about it at home and stuff like that. Maybe we can have an actual buildings and grounds committee overseen by one or two Vestry people, but not to be the ones who come out here with their shovel and their pick and everything else, ready to do a day's work by themselves.5 We're never going to get people joining the vestry if they're afraid of becoming the junior warden. And so again, and so finally, moving forward, this final part that I've alluded to as well, our vestry at our retreats this coming Saturday, we're going to prayerfully discern where God is calling us as a congregation to focus in 2022. And that doesn't mean that we don't do some of the things that we do. We just begin to find ways to focus everything, to do them together. A church of our size, and again I'm talking people, not concrete. A church of our size can't be doing this and that and raising money for these 6 things over here and doing that. We're not a mega church. A church this size, the experts tell us, can have during the course of a year 1 or 2 focuses. Those focuses which are brought up and figured out by the vestry and where the congregation is invited in to take part. That is how we become, as we talked about today, the body of Christ. That is how we serve the church. So, for instance, the Creation Care Committee for a while, we weren't able to do it because the COVID things kept happening. We started to kind of experiment with this idea with Arts at St. John's. There's been a hunger to have an Arts at St. John's event. What if we tied it in with the Beyond Bias group or the Creation Care group? Something we're already doing. So not as a separate entity, one of many, but tie them in together. That is how to better manage who we are. And so as the vestry helps us figure out what our focus is for this year, we will be able to then check in with the congregation throughout the year and let you know how we're doing. On this one we're doing good, on this one we're a little behind, or a little ahead, and we can continue to get your buy-in. And when the great ideas come, we now have, or will have, 2 focuses on which we can filter those ideas. Maybe, like doing an Arts at St. John's, for one of the focuses will fit. Maybe something else will fit for the focus. We'll figure that out together. And I have no doubt we're going to figure this out as a congregation together. A congregation of which I'm a member too. I like wearing a plastic collar around my neck for various reasons, but it also separates me in appropriate ways. But never forget, Marie and I are members of this congregation as well. We go here. Marie is here right now, going here. So, Marie's prize is me. I get to come home to Marie tonight. So there you go. That's your prize. But what separates us is, we're pledging members as well. So we put our treasure where those who pledge in this parish put their treasure. So I'm never asking anybody here that I'm not willing to do either. And I want us again to focus this year on really being the body of Christ. We're focused according to our abilities. And we can do this because we've done it the last 2 years, really out of a response, but it has worked. It has helped us from losing less of a percentage of people with the hopes of getting another percentage of those people back over time that other larger parishes in this area have. And so as we go forward as the body of Christ, also known as the church. And I pray that God continues to bless us and keep us and guide us, so that we can inspire others to join us in 2022. We can continue to grow and show God's love in the world. Friends, I'll just end by saying, as I've said many times before, it is an honor, a privilege, and a pleasure to be a member of this community as director. slide right into the 2022 proposed annual budget.
Did everyone hear me? Okay. Now, can you hear me, Paul? If you turn to page 5, you will see the 2021 budget and the 2021 actual numbers. In review, does anyone have any questions? The 2022 proposed budget, Reverend Lynn and I have made several changes in the chart of accounts. And these changes were asked of us by our auditor this year, who did a very in-depth look at our books and made several suggestions. So what you're looking at in the chart of accounts is brand new. It combined a lot of the chart of account areas from before into a different category that house similar accounts. We have tried to make it easier to understand. But if you're looking for something that's not there, it has been combined into one of the other chart of account. So going into 2022 budget, we had a lot of challenges because we were combining things. But I think we've come up with a very livable budget. We've included things that we did not have before. If you'll notice down in the transfer of mortgage principal, that is brand new. And that comes to us because of a gift that we were given by a parishioner whose only direction was to say this only goes towards principal of our mortgage. So every month we transfer whatever that mortgage amount is out of the gift and into our bank account to pay just the principal portion of our mortgage. So that's why that's there. Everyone's looking. Does anyone have any questions? Yes. It's different. We actually have 2 different mortgages. And
Do you want to repeat the question?
okay, I'm sorry. Paula asked what the interest rate on our mortgage was. My answer is that we have 2 mortgages, and the interest rates are different for each one. And right now, off the top of my head, I can't tell you, but the second mortgage came as a result of the Vestry at the time saying, I think we can get the interest rate down a little bit. So they went back to the Bank of Stockton and said, let's renegotiate this. And they got an interest rate that was lower. So we continue to look at that and can recommend to the Vestry that we make some changes when time is due.
I'm curious about the increase in the analysis and assessment.
That comes as a result of several things. One is that we are earning principal. We're transferring principal. So that's income coming in. Okay. And then as a result of more income, higher income is going to play into the diocese assessment. And so it's an estimate. We don't know what we will actually pay. If you look at let's see, the 2021 budget, which we based off of the 2020 budget, we said, okay, we're going to pay $17,500, and we paid almost $23,000. So, yeah, it has to do with income. Delegates.
Can you clarify what they're talking about the next to the last line? No operating excess loss or our losses have to be below
Yeah, the loss has gone down because the income is greater. And it's an estimate at this point. Oh, wait a minute. Yes.
This 27,000 and 42,000 that we transferred from the parishioners account to the principal, it does go on principal, you're still paying the same amount you remaining before.
Yes. Yes. The payment hasn't changed, but we are bringing in the principal amount. So it's helping the church in that we don't have to come up with, if you look at 42,000, that we're drawing from a gift. So it's saving us 42,000, if you will.
Yeah, but we're still making the same payment we made.
Absolutely, still making the same payment.
It is going on the principal, not paying interest.
We pay principal and interest every month, but the principal amount that we pay, we are drawing from a gift. So the church isn't having to come up with that amount on a monthly basis, we're drawing from a gift. So if you look on the 2022 budget, that's $42,000 that the church doesn't have to come up with a gift. Bob?
In the amount of funding designated for facilities, are there specific projects included in that, or is there specific general
Bob's question was, what is included in the facilities number? Are there certain projects included in that, or is that just a guess of what we're going to spend? Combination. We have, over the last several years, entered into maintenance contracts with the different firms. For instance, heating and air conditioning. We have a maintenance contract with Grizzly Mechanics, so they come in certain times during the year and make sure that the air conditioning units are working properly and cleaned and filters changed and all of that kind of thing. So we have those maintenance contracts figured into facilities, but we do not have any major projects included. Yes, Bob?
No, I'm just noticing that in the rest there are several non-functioning things for the toilets, and I think it's probably been 21 years since the building was built that the plaster boards since the plaster board was painted, and I don't know whether that's something that's going to need to happen in order to protect the site. I know it's painted.
So we'll add that to the next vestry.
There you go. You get the toss it down.
Yes, Beth?
On a hugely positive note, this increase in pledge funds.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Time, so that's something that really something that's outstanding.
And I want to speak into that because Father Peter is absolutely right in saying these have been strange couple of years for everyone. It's upended all of our lives. But much to Father Peter's credit, he has led us into believing that we have a solid church family and that we can make a difference in our lives and in the community's life. And I think that speaks directly into the pledges. People are so believing and so positive of the leadership here. And that's why I'm here. And I think that we all need to congratulate him for bringing us together.
Now, the outreach number.
The outreach, we didn't put anything in for outreach because we simply don't know. However, there are other line items in the profit and loss that you'll see next month that have increased that will allow outreach to come through. And I'll explain all that in the February Vestry meeting, because those financials have changed too as a result of the auditor coming in. Did you have a question?
Oh, I was, on the mortgage principal, my question is, I see we're taking the same payment and moving those resources somewhere else, but is there any other reason? Do we have a prepayment penalty if we pay more principal each month? Is that part of the mortgage?
That's not part of it right now. That's certainly something that the Vestry can look at.
Yeah, well, we don't want one. If we don't have one, we're good. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Thank you for reminding me that the question was, in the mortgage, can we pay more in the principal amount every month? Do we have any agreement with the bank on that? And the answer is no. We're simply just paying what we owe month to month. But that's certainly something that the Vestry can look at going forward if they want to pay more principal each month. Any other questions?
I was just curious about what goes in the worship line item that went up tremendously between budgeted.
Okay.
Is that like how we needed to do more with internet and things like that to do worship?
Yes, that's part of it. And also, Steve's salary is included in that. I'm sorry, I did it again. The question was, what is included in the worship line? Is that so large because we are doing more with the internet? Yes, part of it is. Part of it is that we put the choir director's salary in the worship line. There are a lot of different components to that. But yes, that is increasing. If you look back at the 2021 budget, it's $173, and now we're asking for close to $11,000 for 2022. Many more things have gone into that worship charter account item. Yes, Bob?
Have you announced who the junior warden is?
No.
The junior warden is elected by the vestry at our retreat, so we'll know next Sunday who the junior warden is.
And I'm sure that will be in the Thursday epistle or what have you, we'll know. Okay, I guess at this time we need to make a motion to accept the budget for 2022. Thank you, Bob. Do we have a second? Courtney seconds. All in favor, say yes. Yes. All right. So moved.
Now's that time where it says time permitting. What are we getting on here? We're almost hitting an hour for our meeting, so we can go to the hour. Open discussion, and I always like, and you'll get tired of hearing this the longer I'm here, I always like to frame our open discussion with grace and gratitude. So the example I like to give actually was an example used when I first invited this at the parish I was at the time. And the question was about a plot of flowers somewhere that looked really horrid. So rather than stand up and say, what are we going to do about those horrid flowers? The person wrapped it in grace and gratitude and says, in light of our beautiful property, all we do to make our property look beautiful, what can we do to bring this patch up to the same level? And if you see the way when you ask with grace and gratitude is we see the goodness that is amongst us as well, not just the things that need to be fixed. So with that, and you don't have to, but if you're able to frame your question with a grace and gratitude, please do. What questions do we have? Whoa.
It's major, but it's easy. I would like to see each vestry member, current vestry, those that just became parliament today, and those that have been on it, stand up and introduce themselves. You know.
Well, friends, go ahead. Now, if the people who are currently serving on the vestry who are able, look at Richard. You don't have to stand anymore. You're off the vestry. Sit back, relax. We have Alethea, we have Debbie, we have Paula, we have Parky. You're not on the vestry anymore. Sit down. Maybe I can tell you. Read your book. We have Parky, we have Kelly, and we have Beth. I believe that's everybody on our vestry. So. Who's not here? Who did I forget? Janie Williams, of course.
You know what, actually, the epistle has everybody's introduction, if you will, and I don't know if it will be. Oh, there you go.
Well, and I can share something about it. Please be seated, vestry friends. Thank you for your willingness to serve. One thing that the vestry members, many of you don't know unless you serve on vestry, they have opening and closing duties on Sunday. So one vestry person comes in and makes sure the heat's on, the coffee's getting made. One person who comes in to kind of shut everything down. So we have at every service, at the very least, one, if not two, vestry people if they stay for the service besides their service. What I decided to do for that very reason, because again, I've noticed, and Deacon Tom has noticed over the past couple of years, that all the questions about everything and the frustrations come to us. And it's appropriate. When don't ever not come to me. Come to me with your question or concern. But if it's about the property, about the toilet leaking and stuff like that, it probably is best gone to either Penny or a vestry person. So starting next Sunday, I'm hoping, the person giving the announcements, to say that the announcements are bulletin on pages 6 and 7, and the rector has asked me to let you know specifically about these two, that will be a vestry person who will stand in front of us every Sunday and make the announcements. So that will help to get some face time in, so that when you're sitting and praying and fellowshipping with them, you'll know who your fellow vestry are. It's important. So thank you for that. I'll try not to be as long-winded. Was there any other questions? Yes, Kevin.
Not a question, Father, but for a long time we've needed somebody to engage with the community, and it has not gone unnoticed by at least this person that you are out in front with the community, doing all sorts of things. And I noticed that not only are you meeting with other pastors in the community, but you're engaging in other things as well. And I appreciate that as a member of the parish, and it's something that's been needed for a long, long time. So I congratulate you on doing a good job.
Thank you, Kelly. I'm reiterating, Deacon Tom has done specific. When we had inoculations done here, thanks to him, we supported the wider community outside this parish. because of him bringing ideas to the vestry. And that's one thing when I was hired. A deacon is appointed to us by the bishop. By the way, we don't pay for the deacon. The deacon's not salaried. He's appointed by the bishop. So raised as a deacon by this bishop, Tom knows, I knew when I was getting hired because the weirdest set of interview circumstances, as I've shared in the past, when I interviewed for this job, my first interview was with the bishop. Sometimes the bishop isn't even part of the interview process, part of the approval process, but not interview. First interview was with the bishop, and he told me about a book to read about being the missional church. And he said, I need people that are willing to go out in the community. So he made sure that the candidates were ready to do that. And the Ministerial Association, which is made up of pastors from Lodi, and they are, if we were to chart out what we believe as a church, as a denomination, we would have vast differences. But we don't go to our vast differences. We go to the fact that we all believe in God, and we want God to immerse God's self in this community of Lodi. And we meet every Wednesday, share what we're doing, and we pray for it. And so that's an easy one to do, I think. And then recently I was invited to become one of the volunteers to serve as a chaplain for the Lodi Police Department. And I'm filling out my paperwork to apply for that volunteer role. So again, that's another way to hopefully be in the community. And that's a chaplain to everybody from an officer to the 911 dispatchers to the people whose loved ones have been killed, and that's for the police and the fire department, I should say. So, thank you for that. Any other questions? Marie says, "What do you want for dinner?" All right. Friends, hearing none, I'll need a motion and a second to adjourn. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Porky, it's always good to. Do I have a second? Kathy, sorry, Kathy, gotcha. All right, any discussion on that? Probably not. Do I do my blessing first? Let me do the closing blessing, and then we'll get that vote. Friends, I'm again delighted to be priest and delighted that we together are community, and may God continue to bless all of us, including those not here, including those who will be invited to watch the recording of this later. God's blessing be upon you now and evermore. Amen. Thank you. All in favor of adjourning the meeting, say aye. Aye. All right. Thank you, friends. God bless you. Thank you. I know. I like jokes. I did. I didn't raise it. We should be right
The bottom was scraping it. Let's keep
I think about you often because I don't know many people that are shipping industry, and I wonder.
Well, I used to, but on the cruise side.
In trouble with his wife. And he tried to get out of trouble.
That shouldn't be the problem.
Something in the driveway. We go to 200. Less than 20 seconds. So she came out the next morning ready to forgive him until she saw him. We go from 0 to 200 in less than 20 seconds. Yeah, right.
Good stuff.
I'll take these from you.
All right. I forgot I had a camera on.